Hello and welcome to this episode of Pharmacy in Flux. I'm your host, Derek Desrosiers, along with my co-host, Phil Hauser. And Phil, I'm excited about our topic today. This is part two of a two-parter on pharmacy banner programs. So, I think we're going to get into some more detail. I'm really looking forward to today. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a topic that's certainly worthy of a second discussion, and I'm looking forward to us unpacking this whole topic a lot more this afternoon.
Excellent. So we're happy to welcome back our guest who we had on our last episode, the CEO of Pharmasave West, Greg Shepard. Greg, great to have you on board again today.
Great to be back. Hi, guys.
Excellent. So I'm going to turn it over to Phil to sort of volley the first question at you, and then we'll take it from there. But as Phil said, we're going to try to unpack some of the sort of more intricate details. I think last time in part one we really gave a broad overview of banner programs and what they can bring and benefits and things like that. But we want to really sort of delve into some of the very specifics of what banner programs offer and why those things might or might not be important to a particular individual. So go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, so Greg, thanks again for being with us today. Just, to start off today, I thought I would ask the question about my voice if I was a member of a banner program. Should I expect to have a voice, have a say in what direction the banner is going, and what role does compliance play or should play in terms of being a member of a banner program?
It's a good question, and it's something we focus on a lot. And it's part of speaking from my experience and at Pharmasave, I know that having a voice as a member of our banner program is everything. I mean, again, my banner program that I'm part of, it's member owned, member governed, and those words aren't just words on a page. They're actually part of our culture and the fabric of who we are. It's everything from the governance of the entire organization is led by our, in our case, a board of directors that are our members. They are in charge of the direction of the company. They're part of the network, and the banners that that are connected with their members generally are the ones that have the greatest success, where the voices are heard and they're important, and the engagement from a management perspective as well as a board perspective. A lot of the events and things that we do throughout the year, it's all directed with members in mind, and validation through member engagement and everything else. So the voice should be heard, and I think a member of any banner program should feel comfortable in reaching out to anyone within the organization, whether day-to-day operations, and they should be hearing from the management of the group as well to ensure that their voice is heard. It's vitally important as a banner program that we're there to support the shareholders and the members of the company. So the voice is vitally important.
So
just to follow up, sorry.
Go ahead, Phil.
I was just going to say, the second part of my question about compliance. Compliance is important for banner groups to have. What level of compliance should I expect to see as a member of a banner group, and what does that look like?
Sure. Again, I think the success of the banner is really around the power of the membership, and I think compliance can be interpreted in many different ways, but I think ultimately when you have an organization that's led by its own members, the level of compliance in various programs, again, not there's different areas of compliance, but they that whole saying, treat, they're going to treat other members as they would want to be treated, in a true member-owned and governed company. And members join organizations because of the value of a banner program and the strength of the banner program. So there has to be some adherence to certain standards to ensure that, when we're going to work with vendors and, looking at national agreements and things like that, that are in place to support those members. There needs to be, an agreement amongst the membership that we're actually going to do and act as we say we will, in order to get the best value out of the voice, the collective voice of the members. So, from my experience, I think someone looking at a banner program should expect something that's reasonable, something that makes total sense as far as their voice and their collective voice and the power behind that. And nothing overly onerous for sure.
So not a perfect segue, but maybe we can go from compliance to something even more specific. So talk to me for a minute here, Greg, about private label and how big of a deal is private label, and what are the expectations around complying with focusing on selling, the brand's private label?
Well, private label, I think, in organizations, from where I'm coming from, private label is a big deal. I mean, we're a retail operator. Private label and the power behind private label should be something that members look at. It goes a long way to support the bottom line, really. I think it's directly related to the strength of the banner program as well. I mean, if you think about what customers are out there shopping for, there has to be trust and in quality and everything else in a private label. Obviously, private label is there for a reason. It comes along with some significant margin benefits for members when customers are looking at national brand products. And I think the more that we see from our members, the more they are able to support the private label offering out there financially. It's a bit of a no-brainer. Depending on the size of the store, it can translate to significant value financially for those members.
Yeah, and certainly I've had personal experience myself and completely get that, but wanted to really emphasize that, private labels also, I think, a way to drive loyalty to the brand, in the sense that once people have those products in their homes and then they need to be replaced because they've gone out of date or they've run out of the product or used it all up, they look at the label and say, well, where did I get this? Right? Oh, it says
Right.
the name of the brand right on it. So they intuitively go back to where they got it. So you get that repeat business from a private label as well, right?
Yeah, every time they reach for that product, it's got your brand on it. In our case, it's there, and they know the brand. They see the logo. It aligns with the power of the brand that's there to support the members. So, like you said, not just financially, but from a marketing perspective, it's a constant reminder of that trust that they have in their neighborhood pharmacy and that banner program.
Right.
Do you think, just building on the private label thing for one more minute, and then I'll let Phil jump in with his next question here for you, because we got a lot we want to get to in this episode. But do you think that that private label also provides an opportunity to how do I describe this? Clearly, it creates loyalty. We sort of just talked about that, because your brand is out there in front of the consumer, all the time. Is it something that helps bring the group together within the organization itself? I mean, do they rally around the brand from the perspective of actually having product? Here's where I'm going with this. My sense of things is that consumers, when they see that a brand has its own private label, gives them a sense that this is a pretty big organization, and that they belong to something, bigger and broader. And invariably, there's an expectation, I think, that better pricing comes along with that as well, as opposed to a pure independent that might not have a private label brand that's associated with their pharmacy name, and so they don't have that sense for their consumers that they belong to something bigger and that they can offer, competitive pricing on those kinds of products.
I think from a loyalty perspective, and membership, like you said, rallying around a name and a brand name. I mean, we know that consumers have an emotional response to private label products when they have that connection to it. And I think, from our case, our owners do as well. When we launch a brand new product, there is a collective effort to make that successful. And customers, they know that brand from their experience from other products. And so when they see a new product that's on the shelf, there's an instant emotional connection to trusting that product and wanting to try it. So our members, they know that. They know that, customers, you put your name on it, you also put your guarantee, and that whole money back guarantee, satisfaction guarantee, because it is something that we want to use as a tool, a traffic driver, a profit driver. So there is many reasons why, in our group, members, they embrace private label. When we have new members coming to look at our program, private label is something we talk about, because with 700-800 SKUs, it can have a significant impact when you're comparing programs as well.
Great.
Just to go in a bit of a different direction, Greg, we know that all Banner Group collectives have wholesaler agreements. It's what makes them operate in all kinds of geographic locations. What do wholesale agreements look like? What would the expectation be if I'm a new member looking at a Banner Group? What should my expectation be? And also, what are the commitments involved with those wholesaler agreements for a new member?
Well, from our experience, obviously, being in the business that we're in, we need product, right? So whether it's a front shop product or a prescription product, so having a solid and a positive relationship with a wholesaler through a strong agreement is going to benefit everybody. We've got locations all across Canada, in very remote areas, and depending on where you want to have your pharmacy, you want to be able to rely on service, and you want to be able to get the product when you can. And being part of a Banner Group means that you've got that collective voice that can, have a bit of weight and a little bit of pull when you need to see improvement in services, when there's shortage. I mean, we live in a world of drug shortages, right? So would you rather be, Greg, pharmacy owner of one, dealing with a wholesaler, or would you be, Greg, pharmacy owner of, 750? There is value and strength in a solid Banner program contract, or a distribution agreement. It's really around surety of supply, consistent service, and something that's been negotiated for, with your collective volume, to ensure that, financially it makes sense, and they're there to work with you as a healthcare provider to ensure that your patient can rely on you to give them the healthcare that your patients need. So it's a complicated web of service and supply, and having a solid agreement in place is absolutely critical to your success as a pharmacy operator.
Is there a couple of important questions I should be asking if I'm looking at a Banner Group about a wholesaler and what the agreement is? Is there a couple of questions that are important?
I think having an understanding of the business terms is a good question to ask. It's a fair question to ask. Every province is different across Canada as far as distribution agreements. Every Banner program has an affiliation with a wholesaler or distributor, and there's reasons for that, obviously. And as far as the commitments that you mentioned, again, you're not making, as a independent pharmacy owner, you don't have to worry about negotiating your own distribution agreement. That's the value of a good Banner program, that commitment is as the organization as a whole. It's not as you as an individual pharmacy owner have to worry about that. So certainly asking questions like that, just so they know what that commitment is, service, frequency of delivery, whether there's same day, all those kind of things that you want to understand how and when you're going to get your product and what it's ultimately going to cost you. fair game questions that you should get answers to.
So just building on that a little bit more, even Greg, and sort of tying that back to the compliance issue, in terms of a wholesale agreement, what kind of expectations would a banner program have in terms of complying with that wholesale distribution agreement and making sure that members of the organization aren't off doing their own thing and directing a significant amount of their business, say, to somebody that you don't have a distribution agreement with?
This is one of those items that I think, when you look at the power of the collective of a banner program, it means that there needs to be some commitment. So if the banner program is going to commit a certain amount of volume and you're trying to negotiate a mutually beneficial agreement between the supplier and the pharmacy, you're going to make commitments and you need to, because the members will benefit from that. So if that's one of the areas where I think that it's in everyone's best interest to support your banner organization's wholesaler. Ultimately, because the stronger you are in your ability to fulfill your commitment, the greater return for your members on service, the relationship, everything. If you've got, if you don't uphold what your commitment is to that organization, then you're not going to see the benefits of that distribution agreement. So this is one of those areas where, together, the more united and consistent you are in supporting your primary wholesaler, the better off everyone is. And in a banner program like that, it's the collective strength. You all win together if you work together and fulfill what you've committed.
Okay,
so
that's
just as
the
a follow-up.
carrot. That's the carrot. I was going to say that's the carrot. What's the stick?
Go ahead.
So how do you deal with a member that isn't being compliant and is consistently not supporting that kind of an agreement because they're either not seeing the benefit of it from their perspective or they don't get it. They're not chasing the carrot. So what's your stick as opposed to the carrot?
Well, the stick is usually, we've never had to deal with a stick because it usually comes down to education and just, clarity on trying to understand what the issue is. If there's a reason why someone's not supporting an agreement that the banner has made that financially makes no sense to go elsewhere, then there's usually, they either don't understand what that agreement actually means to them, and you can run some numbers and say, this is what you're missing out if you're not participating fully, or if there's service issues, then that allows us to go, the stick is for us to go back to the wholesaler and say, look, this is unreasonable. Like, you're not servicing, you have a part of your agreement as well to hold up. So, there's generally, an opportunity for better understanding why someone wouldn't want to support an agreement with a wholesaler like that. And it's something that we've never, there's no stick, so to speak, that we would ever use, because it's usually, math, math is math. It's usually pretty telling.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So just as just one more follow-up to this whole wholesale discussion is, if I'm a first-time banner group type owner and I'm looking at a number of different banner groups, and I look at banner group A and they have A and B and they both have the same agreement with the same wholesale provider, is there some question, and you talked about drug shortages earlier, is there some questions I should be asking that are important in terms of my decision making because both of them are being supported by the same distribution? And how does that work for me if I choose A banner group or B banner group? Is there going to be a difference, do you think?
Well, I guess it all depends, on the level of the due diligence that pharmacy owner's done. If they're comparing and they have a sense of if the two banner programs are exactly the same, then I guess the question does come to I've always said talk to members of those programs and see what the actual the reality is. If you got banner program A and banner program B, talk to a few on either side and see how that translates to service and their ability to function as a pharmacy. There's formulary issues and things like that. Just because the banner agreement might be the same with the wholesaler, operationally, then it comes down to, remember, the distributor, the wholesaler, is a supplier to the program, the banner program, and there might be differences between the programs then that enable the wholesaler to service one banner perhaps better over the other in conjunction with the vendor or the manufacturers and everything else out there. So there's levels to it all. So at face value, it causes the need to have a few more questions and to see what the differences really are.
So let's shift gears a little bit here, Greg, and talk. And I guess this sort of ties back to having a voice again at the very beginning that we talked about. But it's the whole issue of actually owning the program, and the kind of commitment that people have to make to belong to different banner programs is different from one program to the next. And I believe in your program, the members have to actually be a shareholder. They have to purchase a share in the company. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, every store, every pharmacy owner is a shareholder.
And that's not the same with all other, a lot of the other banner programs. So, is that a hurdle for you, or is there a way for you to turn that into something positive for the incoming pharmacy, in terms of giving them a sense that as a shareholder, they really are an owner of this organization. They really do have a say. They really can make a contribution, as opposed to just signing some agreement that says, well, I'm going to join your banner and, I'll participate, but I'm not an owner.
Well, I think we've all, we all know that, having skin in the game is, something that's motivating for everybody. We also know that if you're going to call yourself a member-owned and governed organization, then you truly need to be member-owned. In our case, having each of our franchisees as a shareholder of their company, all that does is underscore the importance of the member or the shareholder, interchangeably, in our case, having a voice, and the ability for them to speak as a member who actually has a financial incentive to care about the organization and its success. I can tell you, I've never had a conversation with any prospective owner or current owner where they've questioned the importance or the value of being a shareholder. Conversely, it's always celebrated as, this is my company. I'm a Pharmasave member, but I'm also a shareholder. This is my company. I'm an owner of the organization. And it just gives them that right to be actively involved in their organization, be passionate, and actually care more than just the four walls of their business. And that's where you get that culture of what member-owned truly means. And it's been, successful for us for 40 years. So.
For sure.
So just to shift gears again, going in a little different direction, because I know our time is limited here today, but one important facet, and again, this is the nature of our business at RX Ownership, is we know that all banner groups have right of first refusal agreements, or what's commonly referred to as ROFRs. Do you see that there's a need for those in the marketplace today? If I'm a first-time banner group person, should I be concerned about ROFRs? How should I be looking at that?
Well, I think that it's a good question for prospective owners to ask, just so that they understand what the ROFR actually means. It sounds ominous. It sounds like it might be something that takes away some of your freedom or your ability or your choice. But really, I've never seen a ROFR be, seen as a disadvantage to any of our members. Today, we see pharmacy owners. There's pharmacy owners that are looking at succession planning and that next phase. Maybe it's retirement. Maybe it's bringing on partners within their organization. And we also have members who are in acquisition phase and growth phase. And the ROFR is there to protect the overall banner program, obviously, But it's a huge opportunity for all members, that once you become a member of that banner program, it gives you, if you're perhaps in acquisition mode or you want to grow, there's a pharmacy around the corner, one of your banner group, and there's an opportunity for you to have access to a pipeline of stores that could come up that you might not otherwise have. If you had your eyes set on a pharmacy that you always thought, oh, that'd be a great pharmacy to have one day. If some competitor came in and said, I want that pharmacy too because it's a great pharmacy, well, there's the benefit and the value to you as being a member of that organization, is that you potentially have a right to just to get that pharmacy if you want to meet that offer. It ensures a healthy value for your pharmacy if you're looking to sell your pharmacy. I've never seen it be an impediment to marketing your business, and in fact, in those cases, you're going to get what the market price might be for that pharmacy, and if it is, what the banner would consider a competitive offer, as a pharmacy owner, you're selling your pharmacy one way or another. What it does is it allows the rest of your colleagues and your members to keep that pharmacy within the program. So collectively, those shareholders that we talked about earlier, it's in their best interest to have some protection of the system itself. And it's seen, I have a lot of people that have joined the program, and having a ROFR is actually seen as an opportunity for them. It actually, it's seen as a positive because they get this sort of first track access to pharmacies that might come up for sale within the organization.
Makes a lot of sense. So I think what you're saying is there's no real downside for an owner to sign a ROFR, but there may be some upsides depending on what their own individual long-term plans are. I think the other thing maybe with ROFRs too, we could probably say, is that they might help somebody be able to address their own legacy issues as they transition out of their business. So I'm selling my business. I really would like it to stay in this program because it's been there for 20 years. I really don't want the name to change, so on and so forth, that kind of stuff. I presume that, a ROFR might be able to provide an opportunity for those things to happen easier than, okay, the only way I'm going to get out is to sell to a big national corporate entity.
And we've seen that where the selling pharmacy owner is actually relieved. Being part of a successful banner program means that the resale value and the market price for your business, because you've been able to grow over the years, you're probably going to get some good dollar for it. As an independent pharmacy owner, that's not a bad thing, right? I mean, that's what you've worked decades for to build up, right? Put equity, sweat equity, financial equity into that business. The day comes when you want to do what's right for you as a pharmacy owner. We've got so many owners that are conflicted because, it's my business. I want to sell it. I want to get a good price for it, which might mean one of these big box national, corporate companies come in and they want to buy it. But as a member of the community and, as an employer of choice, they're concerned about their employees and everything else. And this way they can, get top dollar for their business. And, if we're able to exercise our ROFR and keep the store a Pharmasave, keep the staff in place and everything else, then, that's a win-win-win, right? I mean, I've only ever seen, our ROFR result in, positive outcome for sure.
So looking at it from the perspective of a first-time buyer, Greg, and I come up against a banner that's for sale, and I'm ready to put an offer on the table, and there's a ROFR. Should I be concerned? How should I move through that process if I want to make this acquisition, but now I'm staring at a ROFR, which again has a time limit on it, so it could be anywhere from 30 to 90 days, depending on the banner group you're looking at. How should I be viewing that if I'm a first-time buyer?
Well, I don't think it should deter you from being, interested in the pharmacy. I think you just need to ask questions, obviously, whether your offer on that pharmacy that you're interested in is going to be seen as a friendly offer or a competitive offer, frankly, by the banner program. So if you are putting an offer in and it's a Pharmasave, and you're attracted to the success of that business because it's a Pharmasave, and you want to continue the history of that particular pharmacy in that community. In our case, we would say that's a friendly offer. Why would we want to introduce new owners into our organization in case they want to continue to grow. You just want to have, from the outset, talk to the banner, talk to the program itself to understand what the implications are. But if you're just wanting to grow and join a banner and you want to pick up an existing store, from my experience, I don't think you should be worried about the ROFR.
So we're probably coming close to the end of our time, but we've got a little bit more time here, and we want to sort of just delve into one more kind of area. And at one point, I sort of thought we might talk a little bit about buying and marketing advantages, but I think over the course of the first episode and this episode, you've really emphasized that there are some significant potential buying and marketing advantages that a banner program can bring to a particular pharmacy, and that all the members of the organization can share in that. So let's kind of tied to that, though, how members are going to say, well, how do you run this organization? Where does the money come from? How do you generate the revenue that's required to meet all of the overhead of the organization, pay all the staff, give us all the programs that you're giving us, all of those kind of things. So, we've sort of gone away from the days, I guess, where banner programs were charging, a monthly fee for the most part, and you got to pay a flat fee or a percentage of sales or whatever that was. And most of that's gone away now, and it's kind of sort of done, I'm not going to say covertly, but it's kind of done, indirectly is maybe a better word. So talk to me a little bit about generating revenue to meet that overhead, and what's that really costing me? Do I know? How transparent is the program? We talked about transparency, I think, in part one as well.
Yeah. Well, the answer is you should know. And we have that same conversation when we've had other pharmacy owners from other banners look at our program or they join. And, all banners need revenue to operate the program. I mean, how else are they going to run it? How are they going to run their flyer? How are they going to do their, social media and their websites and provide you with all the merchandising and operational support and like everything that is the banner, that's the marketing strategies, all those things. And as a member and as a shareholder, you should know exactly where every penny goes and every penny, and where every penny is coming from. You mentioned, the old franchise fee models, those things are gone, right? And in our world, there's nothing covert, where every one of our members knows exactly what the investment is into the Pharmasave program, for example. They get that on a statement every month. And it shows, also in return, what that return on investment is every single month. And, our commitment, again, being a member-owned and member-governed organization, is our members, our directors on our board, all members should have the visibility and the transparency into how their program is funded, and focusing on, our mandate as a management team is to ensure that there's the strongest ROI in Canada, frankly, to ensure that, we need to grow, we need to demonstrate where, if I'm paying for every dollar that, I'm investing in the Pharmasave program, what am I getting back? And we need to ensure a strong return. We've had banner, operators come from other programs, and we've asked them, so, how does it compare? And they say, well, it's better, but I can't tell you exactly where, because I never saw this level of detail before. To your point about, the covert funding of the program. And it's something that our members appreciate. There's different mechanisms that banner programs will use, different levers that they can pull. Our method is pretty straightforward, and our members see it every single month. And our commitment, being owned and governed by them, is to ensure that there's no covert way of funding our program. And that served us well for 40 years. And when members ask the right questions, if they think a banner can operate on a few $100 in fees up front every month by another banner, we're all business people. That there's some other way that they're funding their program. Then, like, it has to pass the sniff test, right? So ask the questions, and you should be able to get all that information. In our world, that's something that we don't dance around. Here it is. You see it every month, black and white.
So, in addition to that, are people understanding within the program that their contribution to the program is proportionate to the volume of business that they're doing in their pharmacy? Or
well,
is
every
it?
banner might, yeah, well, every banner might be different in that mechanism, right? It might be proportional, it might be flat, it might be off private label and off the wholesaler level. Like, there's different ways, and all I can say to a prospective owner, because it comes up every time, when we do our due diligence, we've got franchise disclosure requirements. We have to tell people how we fund our program, and we tell them everything about our program, and they need to understand it. And often they come in talking about one particular type of revenue, because that's what we've always talked about for years. And there's a whole other package that they need to understand from a financial perspective. And I can tell you that the owners that ask those questions are the ones that you can see they're going to be successful, because they know how their business is run as well. They know where their money's coming from, and they know what levers they can pull to change to be successful and adapt through this changing world we live in.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and I think I brought it up from the perspective of some pharmacies might have huge dispensaries and are filling thousands, tens of thousands of prescriptions a year, whereas others, the dispensary business might not be great, but maybe they got a great front store, they got a great OTC business, and they're pumping out tons of private label, or they're blasting through tons of flyer product that might be generating co-op dollars, and so on and so forth. So it can vary from pharmacy to pharmacy too, in terms of depending on what levers you're pulling. Yeah.
Even within the banner, it can change. But again, it's back to the focus can't simply just be on what's my investment in this program, because you can't compare a 600 square foot store to a 10,000 square foot store. 10,000 square foot store in our case might be doing e-commerce. They might have home health care. They might have all this other stuff, a full flyer that they're doing all year long, and the dispensary isn't doing all that. What they need to focus on is what's that return on that investment. So if you're looking dollar for dollar, so that big store might be contributing more because they're using more of the program, but the return is also proportionally higher, right, at the end of the day. So, but the owner they need to understand that. It's in our world where we are is we believe it's it's fair, it's transparent, and it works.
Excellent. So we've unpacked a few things here, I think in detail today, more so than in part one of this two-parter on banner programs. Private label, talked about wholesale agreements, talked about ROFRs, we talked about ownership and having a voice, and generating revenue for the program. So I think some really great stuff. Before we wrap it up, Phil, any last thoughts or words or questions for Greg?
Actually, I have one, and I think it's important to ask because we get asked this all the time. So, Greg, it may or may not be a quick question, but I'm a first-time owner, and I'm looking at two things. I'm looking at making an acquisition and doing a startup. Which is one better than the other? Is there one that has more advantages? What's your view on that? I know it's a tough one, but I thought I'd throw it at you.
It is a tough one.
Episode 3 on this one.
Yeah,
episode 3. Yeah.
I guess you're banner program in our world. You're an independent business owner, right? So it does ultimately come down to capital and money that you have available. There's certainly we've got I'd say we've got over 30 stores opening in this calendar year in Pharmasave across Western Canada, and A lot of those are greenfield new stores, and I would say, we've had some conversions from other banners as well, but there's definitely a lot of interest in new pharmacies. It depends on where you want to build a practice. It's a small one. It depends on the market, right? Maybe there's no real estate. Maybe you see someone just killing it, and you want to buy that business and take it to a whole new level. So it really comes down to what your motivation is, what your goals are as far as that sweat equity and being a new business starting out. And I think the importance there is then, obviously a banner program can certainly help you grow and, start with one leg up as far as hitting the market and being successful. But buying an existing, looking around at people that are looking at succession plans right now, we can have a whole other conversation about what to look at in that business then if it's a good business opportunity. Just it's a very different stage. It's like building a home or going and buy one, or building a lot, versus buying a home that's there. So different motivation. I think both can be very successful for you.
That's great. Thanks, Greg. And that's a good segue, because our next episode, we're actually going to be talking about greenfield startups and the whole concept of building out a pharmacy and how do you go about doing that. We're going to be talking to a store designer. So we're really looking forward to that next episode as well. But want to thank you very much for taking the time to be with us, both for the last episode and for this episode today. I think we've provided some great insight into the banner program realm of the pharmacy world, and thanks again for your time and giving us a lot of the insight that you have and into your organization and into banner programs in general. So with that, Greg, we'll sign off. Yeah, terrific. Right. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Pharmacy in Flux, and we'll catch you next time.